Hello there friends and welcome. For today's Pathfinder build we have a Lich Witch, who is the true queen of all debuffs and crowd control. As a witch you get very powerful hexes to heavily cripple the enemy, such as Evil Eye for -4 to their saves, Slumber to make them easily fall asleep, amazing buffs as well such as Protective Luck and Fortune Hex to heavily shift the dice rolls of your whole party into your favor, amazing for unfair, a permanent level drain aura, and most importantly the ultimate dispel potential from the very high caster level boost Lich gives you, and the ultimate dispel in the game, Corrupt Magic, that will cripple the enemy saving throws even further by -1 for each effect dispelled, further empowered by the destructive dispel and dispel synergy feats to truly shut dispelled enemies down by stunning and sickening them and applying even more debuffs to their saving throws to seal their fate. As a Lich, of course, you have the whole fun Lich package, including a spell to reanimate bosses and even unique enemies for you, amazing damage through spells like Fist of Blood and Negative Eruption, and extreme sustainability and survivability from a massive wall of temporary hit points. We have more than 1500 effective hit points here, many of which are easily rechargeable by the hundreds per cast, immunity to pretty much everything, status ailment wise, and still have decent saving throws to overcome the rest. So without further ado, let us get started on our Debuffing Queen Lich Witch build. Alright, so first, let's get into each witch archetype, the best ones and the overall main features about the witch class, which are of course the hexes. Witches gain quite a lot of hexes, usually one every 2 levels. Hexes can do pretty much everything from debuffing the enemy to buffing your party and even crowd control. Some of them are extremely powerful, such as Fortune and Protective Luck, allowing you to hit way more often, get more critical hits, and even avoid attacks. And when it comes to hexes, remember that I already have a full hexes guide that you can check, link to the site here or in the video description. So for this witch build, I'll keep it simpler. The best thing about hexes is that most of them are spammable, right? You don't really have a limit of uses per day, which is what makes playing a witch so fun, because you have your spells that you can save for the actual challenging foes and bosses, and meanwhile you can simply use your hexes against the other enemies, the so-called trash mobs, without having to rely on crappy ranged attacks or melee attacks. Which is why for this witch build, I'll focus more on a full caster type of character, as we can always rely on our hexes. Lastly, witches by default are intelligence-focused casters and also prepared casters, but some of the archetypes change this. And speaking about archetypes, well, first we have Elemental Witch. Its main special ability is Elemental Ray, so this witch kinda tries to be somewhat of a kineticist. You gain a ranged touch attack that deals some elemental damage and scales with your level. The problem is, this damage is kinda low, unfortunately, and unlike kineticists, you don't have ways of increasing the power. So yeah, the damage we get from Elemental Ray isn't going to cut it. The Hagbound Witch may seem interesting at first. Its main special ability is gaining increasing size bonus to strength, capping out at +6. Vile Curse can be pretty fun too, because it basically lets you cast Bestow Curse at will. And the Curse of Deterioration effect is pretty powerful, with a -4 to attack rolls and saving throws. On the other hand, you do lose quite a lot of hexes. And lastly, you know, the Hunched Muscle ability, it kinda doesn't matter that much, because there are other ways of achieving similar size bonuses through long-lasting spells like Enlarged Person and Legendary Proportions, both of which the witch can cast herself. Hex Channeler, on the other hand, kinda tries to be a bit like a cleric through the Channel Energy ability, so you can channel both positive and negative energy. The issue is, this will never scale well enough, right? So it only starts at 1d6 points of healing or damage, and then, unlike clerics who gain more by just default class progression, to increase this you need to spend a hex on every single level for another 1d6. It's just useless, I'm sorry, but there's no way you're going to spend useful hexes into just getting 1d6 more scaling for your channel energy feature. I'd certainly skip this one. Leyline Guardian, on the other hand, can be somewhat decent, so its main power is the Conduit Surge ability. As a swift action, you can increase your effective caster level for the next spell you cast in that round by 1d4 -1, and at level 8 it will become 1d4. There is a limit though based on your charisma, and you also have to make a fortitude save, otherwise you'll become staggered for a number of minutes equal to the level of the spellcast, which can be quite crippling. It's also a spontaneous intelligence caster, instead of a prepared one like most witches. Anyways, the main issue I have is, as far as Conduit Surge, 1d4 extra caster levels in the grand scheme don't mean that much, especially when you can merge with Lich and get 30 caster level and even higher through some gear. Stigmatized Witch is a special archetype made for Wrath of the Righteous, and as you might already know, it is also Ember's archetype. It's basically almost the same as the normal Witch, except your main ability score is Charisma, and you are also a spontaneous caster. Besides that, instead of the Witch Patron, you gain an Oracle's Curse, which honestly is nowhere near as good as the Patron, because the Patron only provides benefits, including more spells, some of which cannot access normally. The Oracle's Curse, on the other hand, is kinda crappy overall, especially after the Wolf-Scared Face nerf into Oblivion. But you know, you are a spontaneous caster. Lastly, we have Witch of the Veil. Your main unique ability is Shrouded Step, which basically lets your witch become invisible and even teleport for a number of rounds equal to your intelligence bonus as a swift action. My main issue with this is that, you know, for the hexes you lose, as a witch you can just cast invisibility spells on your own for pretty much the same benefit. Now, if you were to ask me what the best witch archetype is, I'd say it's between the normal witch, yes, just the normal witch, Leyline Guardian, and Stigmatized Witch. I do actually prefer the normal witch because of the numerous hexes you gain. The thing with Stigmatized and Leyline Guardian is they are spontaneous casters, and I do find that annoying for the main character. Yes, I know a lot of people really like spontaneous casters, I just don't. Not in Wrath, certainly not after the Mythic Merge nerf to spontaneous casters, which means their normal spells are learned much later than prepared casters. For example, the normal witch, when merging with Lich, can achieve level 9 mythic spells and normal witch spells as early as level 13. For a spontaneous witch like Stigmatized Witch, you'll only learn your level 9 normal spells at level 18 minimum, even when merging with Lich. I'm sorry, but to me, that's too much of a delay. I just can't stand it personally. I want to have as powerful spells as early as I can. The difference between level 13 to level 18 gameplay wise is like more than 20 hours of playtime. Level 13 is chapter 3, 18 is chapter 5 plus. And which does have very powerful level 9 buffs like Foresight, Heroic Invocation, and Mind Blank Communal. I want this as early as I can. So I'll personally be going with the normal witch, but you can certainly go with Stigmatized or Leyline Guardian. And look, I know I said Stigmatized Witch with Charisma has synergy with the Lich's hit point score after your full transformation, but just like with my Lich King guide, it takes forever to get there. It's just chapter 5 plus, and at that point, an intelligence witch can still have more than 1000 hit points anyways, so you know, who cares. For race, you know you can pick anything you want. I prefer human as usual for the extra feat, but this build won't be feat starved, and later on you'll have some free feats you can pick, especially when combined with Loremaster. The background is very simple, switch urchin and pickpocket. As a witch, you really want high initiative to instantly cast your hexes during battle before the enemies can react, to easily debuff or crowd control them. When it comes to your stats, well, if you went with the normal witch or the Leyline Guardian witch, intelligence, of course, and we want to max this out at 19. If you went with Stigmatized Witch like Ember, then of course you'll want 19 Charisma instead. As for your other scores, 14 Dexterity is enough. Wisdom can be treated as a dump stat if you want, you can leave it at 8 for more points, I just don't think it's necessary. Then I would personally get 14 Constitution and 12 Charisma. The Charisma here is just for the Lich synergy later on, but you know, for most of the game, your Constitution is what will determine your hit points. When it comes to skill points, if you went with the normal witch, so intelligence, you'll have a lot of them to spare. I would personally focus on Arcana, World, Persuasion, Use Magic Device, and Lore Nature. As for your level 1 feats, you definitely want Improved Initiative. And then as a human bonus feat, well, this can go in two ways. So witches, they don't have the Grease spell at level 1, which is a pretty big loss. On the other hand, they do gain Glitter Dust at level 2 and Stinking Cloud at level 3, both of which are conjuration and very strong spells for the early game. While we are going Lich, our true Lich spells only come starting from level 10, which are Necromancy. So there kinda isn't a point in specializing in Necromancy now, because the early level Necromancy spells are kinda garbage. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. So what you can do as usual is get started on Spell Focus, Conjuration, and then pick the Greater Focus at level 3. Later you can apply them to Necromancy spells through the Expanded Arsenal Mythic feat, or just respec your character. On the other hand, you know, because Liches have debuffing abilities like Evil Eye to reduce the enemy saving throws, you can outright just start with Necromancy now. For your familiar, the Hair Familiar is by far the best, for the +4 bonus to initiative. So just at level 1 we actually have +4 from Improved, +4 from the Hair Familiar, and +2 from the Pickpocket background, so that's +10 to our initiative score just at level 1. This way your witch will always act before any other character, even bosses later on. When it comes to your witch's patron, you don't really get this as a stigmatized witch. There's basically 2 ways you can go about this. So the agility patron will actually grant you the haste spell, which you know haste is OP, haste is life, and witches sadly cannot learn the haste spell by default without this patron or Loremaster. The thing is, the other spells are kinda bad, and you know you can always rely on another party member to cast haste, like Ascald, a Bard, Nenio, Wojif. My preferred choice is actually Strength, because we gain not only Divine Favor, but also Divine Power, 2 buffs that only Divine Casters have access to. Plus, you know, the other spells are all great choices, but you can just learn them to level up and scroll scribing. Now, at level 1 you also get your first hex, and this can go in 2 different ways. If you are playing on Unfair, then the best one to pick early is Protective Luck without a doubt, because you know it is spammable, it will force the enemies to roll twice whenever hitting your character, so long as this is in duration, no matter how many attacks they have. And well, because of double damage taken on Unfair, you just don't want to get hit at all, especially on natural 20 rolls. On the other hand, if you are playing on Hardened Core, I would much rather start with the Slumber Hex. Slumber is a pretty fun hex that will last you for a long time, until around level 10, when you get the Lich spells. When you cast Slumber, the enemy has to make a will saving throw, or they will fall asleep, and well, creatures that are asleep can't do anything at all. The best part about this hex is that it doesn't have any hit dice limit, it works on any enemies besides, you know, enemies immune to mind affecting, all demons are still valid targets, and it is a great tool your witch will have at their disposal for the early levels, as to quickly shut down multiple enemies per battle, while your party focuses on the remaining ones. Plus, remember that when it comes to sleeping enemies, you can use the coup de grace ability to deal massive amounts of damage and even outright instantly kill them, because whenever they take damage, they will wake up. So, Hardened Core, Slumber, Unfair, Protective Luck. As far as your level 1 spells, because we have our hexes for debuffing and crowd control, I would mostly focus on buffs, and some healing spells for utility too. But basically, Enlarge Unbreakable Heart, Reduce Person, Mage Armor, Cure Light Wounds. I suppose you can go with Cause Fear if you went for, you know, Spell Focus Necromancy. It's just not a particularly good spell. The other spell can be anything you want, like Inflict Light Wounds for healing later on. As for your deity, well, as a Lich, Urgato is always the best for the unique dialogue you get. And then any evil alignment, I prefer Neutral Evil. For your second hex at level 2, if you are on Unfair and you first got Protective Luck, then now you'll want Cackle, because you can then extend Protective Luck forever, even cast it on your whole party with no limit whatsoever. For Hardened Core though, this is when I would pick Evil Eye. Evil Eye is simply amazing. By default it's -2 to Armor class, attack rolls and saving throws, and at level 8 it doubles that, so becomes -4. The beauty about this hex is even if the enemy makes the save, they'll still be debuffed for 1 round, which is more than enough, and this 1 round can be extended through a move action with Cackle. At level 3 is when I would pick Greater Spell Focus and then Necromancy or Conjuration. The good thing about picking the Necromancy focuses early on is that, well, you won't have to bother with Expanded Arsenal, which saves you a Mythic feat. As for your first level 2 spells, ideally you truly want Glitter Dust, even if you don't have Focus in Conjuration, because you know Glitter Dust is OP, and you can just Evil Eye the enemies before casting this. Besides that, False Life. At level 4 increase either Intelligence or Charisma if you went Stigmatized Witch, which is also what you should increase on all the other levels. If you went with Intelligence, your character will eventually get more skill points, which you can then spend on anything you want, such as Lore Religion, which will become a class skill for us pretty soon. For a level 4 hex, I would pick Protective Luck now if you went for, you know, Core and Hard. Otherwise, for Unfair, Fortune Hex. You can also extend it forever through Cackle, which you would already have on Unfair. Then you can go with like Scare and Pernicious Poison, which does have very nice synergy with Stinking Cloud, something we'll get pretty soon. For a level 5 feat, Heighten Spell. So by now we already have level 3 spells as a prepared witch, which means we can heighten Glitter Dust or even Scare to level 3 for more DC and more castings, of course. For your first level 3 spells, Stinking Cloud, yes, I know it's not Kingmaker and demons are immune to poison, but for the early game until around chapter 3, You also fight a lot of cultist enemies, including some very annoying spellcasting cultists, and they will be easily shut down by Sticking Cloud. For our level 6 Hex, Cackle. But if you were on Unfair, you would already have this. You can then pick Vulnerability Curse for synergy with Hellfire Ray later on. And then Vampiric Touch. The other one is up to you. Remove Curse can help. For our level 7 Feat, Selective Spell. So the reason I don't pick Persistent Spell here, it doesn't affect the Leech spells. None of them work with Persistent Spell. So at most you would be using Persistent for like Glitter Dust or Stinking Cloud. Selective Spell on the other hand can be great for a Lich, because some of your spells, including the earliest area of effect powerful damage spells you get, such as Bone Explosion, will hit party members, unless you apply Selective Spell to them. As for your first level 4 spells, honestly a Heightened Glitter Dust is better than all of the crowd control ones here. I would choose Greater False Life and Enervation, but you know, you can also pick Death Ward early. I just prefer to leave this to Clerics and Oracles. For your level 8 Hex, Fortune. This is great because, you know, at this level, Fortune will already last 2 rounds, and you can extend it forever. With Fortune, whenever you make any ability check, attack roll, saving throw, or skill check, you get to roll that again and pick the best result. This does work multiple times, based on the duration. If you are on Unfair, you would already have this before, so for Unfair, Vulnerability Curse or Ice Plant. And then for more level 4 spells, Dimension Door and Phantasmal Killer. For our level 9 Feat, this is pretty important. We want to enter into the Loremaster Prestige class, starting from level 11, and for that we need skill focus in either Arcana or World. I prefer World because, you know, your witch can cook for your party. And while we won't be cooking any children, we'll be making some very tasty tacos. Then for our first level 5 spells, at this point, you are very close to the Lich merge, so you won't really be using any of these. The level 5 Lich spells are amazing on the other hand. What you can do is pick Cave Fangs because of the kinda cheesy overpowered synergy it has with the Mark of Justice paladin ability. And yes, this was nerfed, but only one of the models, the other one still works just fine. Besides that, pick something like Feeble Mind or Mind Fog. At level 10 we have our last Witch level and our last Hex. The one you absolutely want here is Beast's Gift. This is another one of the super overpowered hexes in the game, and it basically lets your witch grant an extra bite attack to any party member, pets included. The beauty about this is that, well, while it does have a duration of equal to your witch class level, so 10 minutes, it has infinite uses, so you know you can just cast it again once it ends. And bite attacks in Wrath of the Righteous stack. At the very least, this means an extra attack per round for all of your party members. This is the only hex that I would say shamans like CAVALIER end up missing. At this point you already have the Lich spells, so you know you can go with any level 5 here, won't make a difference. Baleful Polymorph, why not really useful, has some fun thematic synergy with Witch, I guess. So from level 11 onwards, you'll want to get started into Loremaster. The main reason we don't continue Witch progression is that, honestly, from level 10 onwards, your Witch kinda doesn't gain anything worthwhile. So Loremaster is the way to go. We'll get to keep our full spellcasting progression, and basically achieve the ultimate versatility by stealing spells from other classes, and even getting some powerful feats by bypassing requirements. So for a level 11 normal feat, Metamagic and Bolster spell. We already have the Lich spells by now, and Bolster can add a lot of extra damage to them. For Empower and Maximize, just use the Metamagic rods instead. Now when it comes to your first Loremaster secret, honestly, there's 1,000 different ways this can go, depending on what you want your build to specialize in, I mean. The Rogue and the Combat feat secrets are more for characters that want to melee, right? You get to pick any feat by bypassing the requirements, but the ones here are mostly for melee characters. If you wanted to melee with your witch, the best one would be Shatter Defenses. But since you know I already have plenty of Fighter Mage and Fighter Cleric, I will use the Loremaster's secret to steal spells from other classes now. You know, as usual, there's plenty of spells you can pick, especially since at this point, your witch will already have level 7 spells when merged with Lich. But anyways, I'll give you some options here. I think early on, the Great Invisibility spell is a pretty powerful pick. So the reason is, as a witch, Lich, you can actually turn the spell into 24 hours duration. And Greater Invisibility was actually fixed so that the invisibility effect will remain even after your character attacks or casts a spell. 24 hours on Great Invisibility is pretty fun, and we don't really learn this as a witch normally. For damage spells, you know, you just have the Lich ones, so the spells we'll steal will be mostly buffs and some debuffs, if you prefer. For your first level 6 spells, Greater Heroism and Greater Dispel Magic. The other ones will just be Lich spells anyways. And as for more level 6 spells, you know, Hellfire Ray, although there isn't much of a point to using this as a witch, as the Lich spells are kinda better overall. And besides that, Transformation if you want to actually melee with your witch. For your level 13 feat, I would pick Destructive Dispel. So this isn't a feat that I usually pick, but I have learned to enjoy it a lot when it comes to Lich characters. Whenever you dispel the enemy, they have to make a fortitude saving throw or be stunned. And even if they make the save, they are still sickened. Sickened by itself is -2 to their saving throws and attack rolls, which is already great when it comes to comboing with other debuffing spells, especially the Lich instant death spells. And stunned of course is great because they can't do anything if they are stunned. To top that, we have an extreme boost to caster level as a Lich that no other character and mythic combo can achieve. Your second Loremaster secret can really go in any way you want. I mean, you can pick stuff like Improved Evasion to truly avoid most area of effect damage. You can of course also pick Precise Shot, although I don't think it's needed for a witch, since as a Lich, you have so many ways of increasing your attack bonus that the -4 penalty won't matter for ranged touch attacks. I'd personally use the secret to steal another spell, in this case Druid or Wizard, and then the Sea Mantle spell. So another pretty interesting spell you can pick, and certainly very thematic for a witch, is Creeping Doom. So in case you didn't know, Creeping Doom is pretty much the strongest summon in the whole game, right? It summons spider swarms, they are immune to physical damage, they always hit the enemy just by touching them. And lastly, when combined with a Paladin for the Mark of Justice ability, the damage is very high, because you can summon multiple spider swarms. For level 7 spells, mostly legendary proportions for one of the best buffs in the game, and then Harm for some extra healing as a Lich. The other spells don't matter, you're just going to be spamming level 7 Lich spells instead as usual. As for more level 7 spells, you know, Greater Bestow Curse can help and is thematic for a witch, since you can easily debuff the enemy, and the Greater Curse of Deterioration ability is extremely crippling, with a -8 penalty to attack rolls and saving throws. If this hits, the enemy is kinda marked for death, especially since you know we can just cast Evil Eye before for a -4. For our level 15 feat, if you don't want to rely on Metamagic rods, and Liches do have some pretty nice level 4, 5 and 6 spells to extend it in 24 hours, which you will be able to do right at this level, you can go with Extend spell. While there's plenty of lesser Extend rods for level 1, 2 and 3 spells, there aren't that many normal Extend ones for level 4, 5 and 6, so Extend can help. As for another Loremaster secret, as usual it can go a number of different ways. At this point you'll already be able to cast level 9 spells as a prepared Lich, which you can go for Cleric spell, and then a pretty nice self buff to get at this level is Winds of Vengeance. You can even pick something like Burst of Glory, because you can turn this into 24 hours, but kinda overkill. Archon's Aura can be a pretty fun debuff too, but you know you can just leave it to clerics like Social. Although as a Witch Lich, you'll certainly have far more difficulty class with this. Or you can also pick the level 9 Wizard spell Weird, the only spell in the game capable of instantly killing all of the enemies at once. As for your first level 8 spells, Mind Blank and Frightful Aspect. The other ones at level 16 kinda don't matter. You can, you know, pick Death Clutch and Horrid Wilting, but the actual Lich Necromancy spells are way better than these. As far as your level 17 feat. Now there is a fun feat that you can pick here. The spell Synergy. Since we also got Destructive Dispel, and like I said, Liches are the best characters for dispelling, whenever you dispel an ongoing magical effect on the enemy, they'll take a -2 penalty to their saving throws against our spells for 1 round, which is perfect, because Corrupt Magic already dispels basically everything the enemy has and inflicts a very nasty debuff to their saves. You'll then combine it with this, and if you quicken Corrupt Magic, you still retain another spell cast in the same round, so you can go for basically anything you want, including the instant kill Absolute Death Lich spell. Chances are it's going to work 100% because of all of the stacked saving throw debuffs you inflicted on the enemy. You can of course pick the spell Synergy before, so earlier at level 15, instead of Extend spell right after Destructive Dispel. And this will arrive just in time for the tough Demon Lord battles, who you most likely want to dispel. As for your Loremaster secret, you can certainly steal yet another spell now, especially since we already have level 9 spells. As amusing as it sounds, Mirror Image is always a choice for more defenses, since thanks to the Mind Blank buff, it will block True Seeing, so the enemies won't easily be able to bypass your mirror images, not anymore. There's of course Sense Vitals too for sneak attack, the same for True Strike, kinda overkill though, and as always weird for an area of effect instant kill. As for level 9 Witch spells, by default you would actually gain them just at level 13 when merging with Lich. It's just that as usual I keep the Mythic and normal build progression separate. But anyways, there's plenty of powerful buffs here. Heroic Invocation and Mind Blank Communal first. Then at level 18 be sure to pick Foresight. Your other level 9 spell kinda doesn't matter. For level 19 feat, anything truly goes at this point. As for your last Loremaster secret, anything also goes here. Alright, so now let us talk Mythic Progression for our Witch Lich. You know, if you wanted more of a melee witch, you can always go with Close to the Abyss for the extra gore attack, otherwise Instrument of Freedom to empower your allies attacks with Holy. You can also go with the Danse Macabre Lich First Ascension. At the very least it provides more healing for your party members, including humans who you can turn into undead through a spell. And will also increase the difficulty class of your spells against some enemies with negative energy affinity like Nabasus and undead enemies themselves. For your first mythic ability, you know, for any full caster, especially merged caster, abundant casting is a must. We want to have as many spell slots as possible for our powerful spells and buffs, and debuffs too. As for mythic level 2, the usual extra mythic ability and improved abundant casting. As for mythic level 3, the last abundant casting ability, greater abundant. And at this point, as a prepared witch, you already have level 7 lich spells, which are super powerful. Don't forget to merge with witch. And as far as your skeleton champion, I usually prefer the marksman. I do think it is the one that has the best feats overall, and my parties tend to lack on ranged characters. For your first lich power, since we aren't going with melee, instead of fear control, go with Withering Life. With this you can inflict a -1 to all of the enemies, physical or mental stats whenever you cast any spell, and it is a passive. If you quicken spells, there's a -2 per round, which can help, you know, increase the difficulty class of your spells. Also, spells that hit the enemies multiple times, like Hellfire Ray, will inflict the debuff for each proc. For Mythic rank 4, I would personally go with Sorcerer's Reflex. Right, so at this point you pretty much already have level 9 spells with a Lich, which means you can always quicken the first spell you cast in battle up to level 7, which is, you know, great since Lich spells up to level 7 are amazing, including Feast of Blood, Exsanguinate, Repurpose, Bone Explosion, and so on. And since we have Withering Life, the more spells we cast per round, the more we debuff the enemy's mental or physical scores, even area of effect ones. You can of course already start with Mythic Spell Focus and Necromancy, but I don't think a +1 to DC is as efficient as the Sorcerer's Reflex feat so early. Then be sure to pick the Skeletal Fighter 1 upgrade, Shatter Defenses, Focus into Longbows, and Weapon Training into Bows. For Mythic level 5, this is when I would get started into the Enduring Spells line. Right, so at this point our Witch is pretty close to achieving 24 hours duration even for 1 round level spells. For Mythic rank 6, so pick either Mythic Spell Focus and Necromancy here or Greater Enduring Spells. For a second Lich power, I would go with Eclipse 2. With this we can either blind all of the enemies or make them vulnerable to negative energy, which helps a lot for the Negative Eruption spell. As for Mythic rank 7, since I already picked Mythic Spell Focus, Greater Enduring Spells. For Mythic level 8, Mythic Improved Initiative, so we truly get to act before even the Demon Lords, considering all the massive initiative boosts we have. The other skeletal upgrade is up to you. I like Cleric because you can then use your Skellig to cast Divine Favor and Divine Power on himself. At Mythic rank 9 we finally become a full Lich, so this is when you get to add your Charisma to hit points, kinda late game, chapter 5 only. But anyways, I would go with Favorite Metamagic and Bolster. If you wanted a melee Lich, you can also go with Ever Ready, or even pick it earlier. Then for your last Lich power, Deadly Magic. You can however pick Deadly Magic earlier instead of Eclipse 2 at Mythic 6. As for Mythic rank 10, I'd go for a Mythic ability and then Favorite Metamagic and Selective. As for the final skeleton upgrade, you can really pick anything you want. Inquisitor would be best for the Bane ability. Alright, so let's cover gear for our Lich Witch now. For the amulet, you know, Velex's Magnifying is always the best, especially since you do want as high intelligence as possible. But for the early game, you can also go with the Amulet of Blackened Mirror, which increases the DC of your hexes by 1, perfect for spamming Slumber Hex until around level 10. For armors, go with Haramakis as they don't interfere with spellcasting and can have some pretty nice effects, such as the Haramaki of Divine Guidance, which grants you a +4 sacred bonus to all saving throws. When it comes to robes, The Robe of the Seven Sins as always is the best, not only for the increase to caster level, which does matter since as a lich we can get higher than 30 caster level, thus empowering our buffs, mythic damage spells, and even dispelling DC. Not to mention of course the +1 to spell DC is always great. But before you can get it, the Robe of Determination is also a powerful choice for the bonus to Fortitude saving throws, which are some of your lich spells early on. When it comes to belts, first belts that enhance both Dexterity and Constitution. After the Lich transformation, just belts that increase Dexterity really, or Strength even if you want. I just have the Display of Power here because it does grant you an aura for -2 penalty to enemy will saving throws without a save. Ideally you would leave this to a melee character who will be close to all of the enemies. As far as gloves, you can always go with Arila's embroidered gloves for higher saving throws and armor class. However, for this witch in particular, I do believe the Twisted Temptation gloves are the best. Even if you don't use enchantment spells, the fact is whenever you cast a spell, the enemy will suffer a -2 penalty to their will saving throws. For the boost, you know Ronak Sacrifice are always the best, although Dexterity isn't that important for this character in particular, besides Initiative. For headbands, at first headbands that focus on Intelligence, or Charisma if you went with Stigmatized Witch, and later on headbands of Mental Perfection for all stats such as Darkness Caress. For the glasses slots you have a few different options. The Goggles of Mind Control if you want the Instant Death Illusion spells. The Goggles of Pure Sight for the very special take 20 on your next spell magic attempt once per day, besides the usual Goggles of Piercing Gaze for the +10 competence bonus to Persuasion if you want. When it comes to the Cloak slot, as a lich you always have two choices. The Cloak of Darkest Rite if you want higher DC by +2, and also a +2 Profane bonus to AC and that of your companions. Otherwise, go with the Lich Mythic Cloak, the Bound of Possibility, to further empower your Lord Beyond the Grave ability by quite a massive amount. Overall, I do think the Bound of Possibility is more efficient here, giving all your undead allies +9 to their physical stats, and also Charisma is pretty powerful. Also, don't forget you have an ally equipped with the Wrath of Undead Cloak. As far as the ring slots, the Ring of Evasion as always, as we do have high reflex. The Bane of Spirit Ring is pretty fun thematically anyways for a lich, as you can convert the damage of any party member, even pets, into force, which is irresistible, as a free action to boot, so it won't cost you anything at all. Besides a few hit points, which you know don't matter since we have more than 1500. Since it is a free action, you can actually instantly use this on all party members even. As for the braces, I do believe your phylactery is best left as a bracer. All you have to do for this is retain the very initial bracers you get at the early game, the lucky bracers. As far as weapons and quick slots, both are very important for a lich spellcaster. When it comes to your weapon, you know the quarterstaff of the War Mage is the best, for the +2 to the DC of your spells. Like I said before, as a witch lich we don't really have to melee, unless you want to. You can first rely on your hexes when not casting spells, and later on the very powerful lich spells, which you'll be able to spam a lot. From all of the spell slots we have thanks to the abundant spellcasting line of mythic abilities, and also the Lich Merge itself. As far as quick slots, as usual, a Greater Quicken Metamagic Rod, if only to get Negative Eruption and Corrupt Magic as quicken spells. For the spells of level 7, of level 8 and lower, you'll have the Sorcerer's Reflex Mythic Feat, and can also rely on other quicken Metamagic Rods, such as the Skeletal Finger, which does have synergy with Lich, as it allows you to restore uses of this rod. Second, the Grandmaster's Rod as usual, for maximizing power and bypassing enemy immunities all at once. Just remember that Negative Eruption does not work with this, as far as Empower and Maximize, since there is no dice rolled for the damage, it's always 10 per level without a cap. It will work however for almost everything else, like Feast of Blood, Siphon Life, Exsanguinate, and Bone Explosion as well. The Devouring Lust Metamagic Rod is also very potent for Maximize, especially for how early you can get this at chapter 3, and the many uses, up to 6 spells per day of any level. Besides that, you know, Extend and Lesser Extend Metamagic Rods, especially to turn some of your level 5, 4 and 6, mostly level 4 spells that last 1 round level, into 24 hours. The best one here being Eye of the Bodak, Greater Invisibility, and Divine Power if you went with the Strength Patron Witch. But Eye of the Bodak alone makes this worth it. Well, alright friends, so this was it for my Lich Witch guide. I personally think it is a very fun build, especially for all of the debuffing potential you have. As usual, if you found this guide useful, please remember to like, subscribe and even consider becoming a channel member for some exclusive content. Thank you for watching and see you next time, friends.